Mr. Irrelevant is a term primarily used in American sports such as the NFL and NBA to describe the final pick in that year's draft. The term gained popularity so much so in the 1970s that in the 1979 NFL draft, teams began passing on their picks in order to pick that year's Mr. Irrelevant. But what if we looked at the players drafted with the infamous last pick in the national draft? The VFL held the first ever national draft in 1981, and Glenelg Ruckman, Chris Feed, who was drafted by Carlton at pick 24, became the first ever VFL AFL Mr. Irrelevant. He did not end up playing any games in the VFL, which was common then even for players drafted high up in the draft. Moving on to 1982, and we have the first interesting story. Carlton would yet again have the last selection, picking up Tasmanian footballer Chris Gray. However, he was denied the chance as his former club, Sandy Bay, requested a $50,000 clearance fee as a result of a registration form he signed at 15 years old. 1983 would see the draft take a 3-year hiatus before returning following the 1986 season, where the draft would expand following the abolition of the country zoning system. If you want to learn more about that, check out this video here. The 65th pick of the draft would see Hawthorn select another Glenelg player in Tony Simons, who would play 3 games in 1987, kicking 1 goal before being delisted and returning to Glenelg, where he'd amassed 225 games and go on to become their senior coach. Moving to 1987, where Carlton, showing their dominance throughout this period, would yet again have the final pick, picking up 17-year-old Dean Adams from Shepparton. He wouldn't play a game in the 1988 season, and has come to a pattern, was delisted the following year. The draft would expand again in 1998 when Hawthorn, having last pick once more, picked 16-year-old Troy Reid from Wurinen, who, you guessed it, didn't play the game in his rookie year and was delisted. Its expansion once more as we head to 1989 with the national draft expanding to 119 picks, and finally we have someone who achieved something in the league, with West Coast Eagles selecting Dean Kemp, who would play all 23 games in his rookie season, and in his second season he reached the grand final. His third season would win the club's best and fairest and All-Australian selection and was part of the premiership team in 1992. In 1994 he'd win another premiership with West Coast, this time claiming the Norm Smith medal for best on ground in the 1994 grand final. He went on to play 243 games for West Coast, kicking 117 goals before retiring at the end of the 2001 season. And it's a new decade as we move to 1990 and Collingwood, who have the bottom selection, selecting Chris Ryan, who reinsets the pattern of playing no games and being delisted. Moving quickly to 1991, where Richmond selected Paul Dimatina, who would be delisted after not playing a single game in his rookie year. However, he was selected at pick 26 of the 1994 preseason draft and would go on to play 131 games in the red, white and blue for Footscray. 1992 saw West Coast gain the last pick a second time, clearly demonstrating their eye for talent by selecting Brandon Lyle, who played 26 games for the Eagles before being traded to Port Adelaide following the 96 season, where he played an additional 90 games before being delisted following the 2001 season. In 1993, Collingwood would select Andrew Shawbull from Xavier College, who played 79 games for the Pies before being traded to Sydney following the 1999 season, where he'd win the BNF in his first year up north. He played 88 games for Sydney, bringing his total to 167, and in 1994 we would see it return to normalcy, with North picking up Keem Ayers, who did not play a single game and was delisted. 95 then saw Stephen Pitt from Norwood drafted to Collingwood. He would play 18 games across 3 different clubs before being delisted one last time following the 2001 season. The AFL centenary season in 1996 saw Lee Signline drafted to Collingwood before being delisted the following season, playing 0 games. And it was the same story again in 1997, with Collingwood selecting Scott Wishton before being delisted after his debut season. In 1998, North Melbourne would have the honours of the final pick, selecting Shane Clayton, who had been delisted from Brisbane that year prior. Clayton would break the streak of Mr. Irrelevance, doing nothing in particular, as he went on to play 99 games for the Roos before being delisted again in 2004, bringing his total to 112 games, and winning the premiership in 1999. Speaking of 1999, let's move on then, with Carlton yet again having the last pick, selecting Joe Allen, who didn't play a single game and was delisted the next year. Next, we head into the new millennium as we take a look at one of the greatest drafts of all time. Surely it's not another 0-game player. Well, not quite, but not exactly a superstar either is Daniel Wolfe, who would play 30 games for St Kilda before being delisted at the end of the 2004 season. An interesting story is 2001's final pick though, Aaron James, who had already played 53 games before being drafted. He would play 1 game in 2002 before retiring at the end of the season and moving along to 2002 where history would repeat itself, with 2-time best and fairest winner and premiership player Mick Martin sitting at 287 games for North Melbourne before being delisted and subsequently drafted to the Blues. He'd play 13 games before retiring, which, if you can do the maths, means he will sit on 300 games. Is that deliberate? Most likely. 2003 would see yet another Zero gamer in Kyle Archibald. 2004 would see a man delisted 4 times throughout his career in Daniel Pratt, who was drafted by North Melbourne, delisted, picked up by Brisbane, delisted again, redrafted by North, where he played the majority of his games before delisting a final time at the end of 2011, racking up 119 total games. Next up in 2005 is Justin Sweeney of St Kilda, playing 1 game across 2 seasons and being delisted after the 2007 season. Next is a man you most likely know, maybe not for being the last pick in the draft though. It's David Roden. The former player turned goal umpire had been delisted from Richmond and was picked up by Port Adelaide and would go on to be traded to Melbourne before retiring with 185 net games to his name. 2007 then we'll see the first current player. Can you guess who it is? 3, 2, 1. It's Adelaide spearhead Taylor Walker, amassing the highest goal tally and games tally by Mr. Relevant, currently listing at 641